Hybrid Fitness Report is sponsored by WoDLETE, a UK-based sports apparel company. WoDLETE's designs come from a love of functional fitness, helping you to build strength, mobility, stability, and endurance while staying comfortable in what you wear. So from performance base layers to changing robes, from gym shorts to hoodies, and training socks to track jackets, WoDLETE have got you covered. Head to wodlete.co.uk, that's wodlete.co.uk, with free delivery on all UK orders over £50 and worldwide shipping available.
Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Hybrid Fitness Report. My name is Paul Reynolds, and this week we've got for you an interview with Ian and Julia Stirling from Race Durare, based in Shropshire in the UK, and one of a growing number of regional hybrid fitness races. So I hope you enjoyed that. Just to say that their next event is this weekend, so 2nd of May at Cannock Chase Forest. That's between Birmingham and Stoke on the M6. If you want to sign up for that, please go to racedurare.co.uk. Race Durare is spelled RACEDURARE. That's RACEDURARE.co.uk, so you can sign up for that event. Also, just to mention, updates on Deadly Dozen. We gave a review of the Deadly Dozen event in Macclesfield the other week, where Jude became the second person ever to go under 40 minutes. Well, he's now in fourth place because in the last couple of weeks in Leicester with Michael Stevens, and then in Karlsruhe with Fabian Eisenlauer, who many of you will know from Hyrox. They've both come in also under 40 minutes. But Jude is still the quickest man in the world at Deadly Dozen under 30 years old. So there's that, and all still looking good for World Championships. But excited to see how the Deadly Dozen series unfolds as they're now racking up a lot of their main season outdoor races. And David Parkin extending the lead in his own world record to now a ridiculous 36:46, which is nearly a full 3 minutes ahead of Fabian Eisenlauer's second place. So great job, David, and great job, Jason, and the rest of the crew at Deadly Dozen for what's going on there. So hope you enjoy this interview with the Stirlings from Race Durare, and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Would you like to try?
Yeah, try first.
Well, my reading it was Durare.
Well, we'll give you a 9 out of 10. We'll give you 10 out of 10. But there is a funny background story to this. We have I first of all have a broad Geordie accent, which doesn't help. And we've got a WhatsApp chat group for all the people that are involved. And I was on Apple CarPlay, messaging people as I was driving along. And Apple CarPlay, first of all, took Durare as Jury. And then the next version of it, when it played it back, was Gerard.
So what were you hoping for or looking for when you said Durare?
Well, do you know the meaning of Durare? Well, you probably haven't. So it's Latin. So it means to endure, basically to suffer, to endure. And we were looking for a brand or a name that had no association with any other fitness brands or fitness races, because it's a very fickle industry. And it was just a case of coming up with something new.
As I mentioned to Julia, seeing a post where you were talking about your AI tools using to judge wall ball and other standards. So I thought that would be a good time to try and get you on to talk about that. We've spoken about a similar thing with the guys who founded Metrics. It's the kind of area where I think most or everyone's going to end up doing it, but hardly anyone is right now. So I was intrigued to talk to you about that. Then thought, well, let's have a chat about Race Durare from the top, kind of thing. Like how and why did it come about? What is it? And then we can work through that into some of the details about technology, if that's all right.
Chap who owns the gym that we both are members of, Jason, was looking for that's the dog running in the background, was looking for a competition that he could define and use with members of the gym, and then open it up to a wider competition. As you know, Hyrox and the other competitions all have their unique brand. And he came up with the idea of using a sandbag for a progressive race and making it really rather tough. So the idea was you can choose your sandbag. I'm going to have to rescue this dog. Come here, dog. And there goes my notes. So he was. So the idea was using a sandbag and having sandbags of various weights, from 10 kilos up to 30 kilos. Within the race itself, the first version was you started with 60 burpees over the bag and went for a run for 200 meters with the bag, coming back in, and then you had a 60-meter bear crawl with the bag, went for a 400-meter run. That wasn't good. That was Ninja Dog.
He's not.
I think the dog is understandably objecting to a 60-meter bear crawl with a sandbag. I think
it gets worse.
that's roughly what I'd sound like.
So then there was a 600-meter run and 60 thrusters, 800-meter run, and so on. And you built it up, and you built it up with 8 different labours with a sandbag. Eventually, the last run was 1,600 meters running with the sandbag. Now, I entered one of the first ones we ran, and I was actually running along, and I realised when I was on run 5, mathematically, I wasn't even halfway. And it was quite scary. By the time you get to run 6, you kind of just passed that halfway mark. Run 7 was 1,400 meters, so that's a long way. And run 8 at 1,600 meters with a sandbag. A lot of people found that quite
Too
tough.
much, yeah.
It was just a little bit too much. So we ran this event twice. We also tried it running without the sandbag, so you could do the different labours. But again, the whole notion of the longer runs, I think, put a lot of people off. Jason is ex-army, and he was always of the view that you make it tough. You test people, and it's a really tough race. And we've watched people who competed in the second event that we held really suffer, but actually endure through it. The 30-kilo sandbag is not a light thing to carry. And when you're doing it as a single, it was really tough. There was another version that then came out called Durare Strong, which we held in a gym. That was purely the 8 different labours with no running. Now, that's great if you're a non-runner, but again, you don't actually, bizarrely, you don't get the rest that running with a sandbag actually gives you between the labours. So Durare Strong was quite tough as well, but good fun. The latest version now is the 8 different labours with a 600-meter run. And the purpose of looking at a 600-meter run is we can also take it to a running track, which we're planning to as well, do 1.5 laps, and then come in to do one of the labours, go out, run another 1.5 laps, back in, and so on. And it makes it transportable across athletic tracks. We're running a sim, the first test of the new format, next weekend, and the actual new track shape is now a triangle of 3 lengths of 200. So we can take it to a field, you do one of the labours, go around the track, into another one, go around the track, and so on. And it's starting to gain quite a lot of popularity. It's starting to gain following.
It is, and I quite like the idea of not having to count laps as well, because that's just a nightmare, having to count laps on any race.
Yeah.
I mean, as well as doing all that, you're trying to count. No. So just one nice and easy. So everywhere that we're getting locations for it, we're looking where you haven't got to count your laps, you haven't got to think about it too much. You're just going to go with it. You're just doing that straight 600. Yeah. So, and it's preferable kind of outcome, really, isn't it? But the 8 labours. Go on, you go.
Right, I'll go through the 8 labours. So with a sandbag, 60 lateral burpees. First thing, everybody goes off really hot, and then after you've done your 60, you go out for a run. Then it's bear crawl, dragging the sandbag. You don't like that. You said you didn't like that.
Passion.
And then it's 60 thrusters. Then it is 60.
Sorry, is this all with the sandbag?
All with the sandbag.
And it's £30? Is that what you said?
So it's we're now doing 10, 15, 20 and 25 kilo sandbags. You can choose. There's different categories and so on, from sort of standard to pro.
Right.
And it depends on whether you're mixed doubles or male and so on. So walking lunges, 60 meters. 60 box step overs, which has been reduced from 120, which really thrills me.
See, I quite like those.
I don't like them. And actually what happened the last time, I forgot it was 120. And after 60, I started running off. And then I was called back and told I had another 60 to go. So I don't like box step overs. 60 seated twists either side, and 60 squats, and then 60 ground to overhead. So that's the 8 labours, all with the sandbag. So it is quite tough, but it's actually quite easy to train with because all you need is a sandbag. That's all you need.
You must form quite a close personal relationship with that sandbag by the end. That sounds
you actually end up loving your sandbag and quite attached to it with sweat.
Yeah.
A couple of questions regarding the race itself. You said the last one was ground to overhead. What are the standards with that? Is it purely clearing the head, or is it full extension?
No, it's
full extension.
Full extension.
Bag right to the ground, all the way up to the top, full extension of the arm.
You mentioned that you're going to host it around a track, but then also that you have a triangle of 200 meters. Sorry, which is it that you had the triangle and now you're moving to a track permanently, or?
So we actually ran down, initially when we were doing the 200, the 400, the 600, the 800, up to 1600, we actually ran down a canal towpath. So ran down 100 meters, ran back. We had flags all the way down. So you actually, it was quite nice because down the towpath, especially with the longer runs, you actually passed people in various stages of decline and pain. And when we've looked back at the photographs that we've seen that we've had taken, there are some people, including me, in a really bad way. But it's bizarre because by the time you've done the 1400 meter run, the 1600 just didn't really matter. You were through that pain barrier, and you kind of knew you were getting there. It's as I say, it was tough.
The actual track shape will differ depending on where our location is, but each location will be decided to make it nice and easy for everybody. Well, running's never easy anyway. But, we're booked in Shrewsbury, in Shropshire, that place you've never heard of. Lovely place.
That was before we started recording.
You've heard of it now.
And actually, the running's going to be along the riverfront. Really nice and scenic, and that's the beauty of doing it outside and doing it anywhere like that. We've got a few interesting locations, so it'll differ slightly, but there definitely won't be any lap counting because I hate lap counting.
Are you sticking with that area, or are you likely to go anywhere that Jude's heard of?
No, absolutely. No, we are looking to expand out. At the minute, all the kind of hybrid races are very much into big cities, Manchester, London, Cardiff, etc. And the smaller places don't get a look in, and it gets quite expensive, to be honest with you, in the UK. Yeah. So it's nice to do it somewhere a little bit more local, in smaller areas, not the big cities. It just gives everybody that opportunity to take part. We've had interest from a place called Pontypool, South Wales. It's anywhere, open to doing it anywhere. I'd quite like to go to Scotland. And sort of had dreams and visions of doing sort of a Durare on the beach. Now in Wales, you've got some fantastic beaches where you can literally run across the sands and all the rest of it, which is a good one, isn't it? So yeah, it's kind of watch this space. We could crop up anywhere at the moment.
The more we talk about it with people, the more interest there is. This 2026 could be quite significant, and where we'd like to take it, we'd like to have Durare effectively in a trailer, because the biggest problem is actually transporting the boxes, because the boxes, we need at least 6, potentially 8, and they take up a lot of space. The sandbags themselves are heavy, and sort of the eventual aim is to literally have it ready to go in a trailer, and then be able to hitch up and just drive to a rugby club, a running track, an open field, a school playing ground, and run it there, and literally have it in a box. But when we talk about the AI, there's then a spin-off on that, which I think you might find quite interesting as well.
Well, I was going to say, Jude ruined what I had a brilliant segue lined up from his movement question to asking about AI, and then he had a follow-up question that was different. So, there's no segue at all. It's just going to be okay, thanks for that. Now, about AI and movement standards. At some point, Jude would ask you about judging and movement standards. So let's do that now. The reason I reached out to you this time was interested in using AI to judge movement standards. As you are keenly aware, and I think everyone listening to it is aware, that judging movement standards is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. The more popular hybrid racing is, the more people either get upset or frustrated about either judging that doesn't make sense because it's too strict, or apparently no judging at all because people are getting away with anything. So there's a very few people that we've spoken to who are trying to fix that, and you're one of them. So what's happening?
So we recognised that the original format was very judge heavy. So basically, every competitor needed a judge, because if you're running the original format, the short run, they were in and out, and there was no break to do anything else. There was a lot of judges, a lot of volunteers needed. Then, by chance, a chap from Ireland contacted the gym and began to talk to Jason about a system called WoDLETE. Now, WoDLETE is a tablet-based system which runs a competition. In the competition, I've just done one tonight. It's a 45-minute session. You spend 15 minutes on a bike, 15 minutes on a rower, and 15 minutes on a ski erg. There's different exercises, different challenges. It takes you through it on this class. And it's what was introduced in our gym a couple of weeks ago, and it's been really popular. The same chap who wrote the software also wrote software for a competition called Hybrid NW, who also use AI, and they use that for the snatches. Right. So we've actually competed in Hybrid NW. We did one without the AI and one with the AI, and we actually saw it for real working. And in that competition, 20 kilo dumbbell from the floor overhead, and what happens is once you're on the floor with it, the bottom half of the screen lights up green. When you go to the top half lights up. It maps your whole body. It gives you a map of your body. There's like a stick figure, and you had a rep. So we kind of saw it by accident there.
Yeah.
And then this chap came to the gym and said, "Well, I can actually offer it, and I can write software to allow it to be used for Durare." So we had the first version of the software 2 weeks ago, and we tested it out, and it quite simply works. It's not looking at the sandbag; it's looking at the position of the body. So on a movement, you've got to gain that depth of the squat, and it actually sees and maps where the legs are and where the body is. So you've got to get that depth. You've got to get that extension. It adapts itself, obviously, for people of different sizes, because it's looking at the body positions, not the size. So I would imagine I'm 5'7". Somebody stop laughing. It's an in joke.
Just somebody for people who are listening, not watching, that was his wife who laughed at him, not me or Jude.
Yeah, well done. Saved it.
I'll see you later on. Yeah. So yeah, it's purely looking at body positions and that map of the body. So we can use it for quite literally all of the movements, and Chris is writing software quite literally as we speak, which will allow us to have tablets effectively in the field. Somebody will come into a labour, press start on the tablet, and ground to overhead, off they go. We were talking tonight, and it turns out he's actually now suggesting that we can also use it for the bear crawls, so we can have a tablet at the end. So when they get to the end, the tap on the tablet. But I think that's overusing AI. I don't think we need to use the AI, because I think sure a judge can actually count one lap, but it could be used for that. You can use it for box step overs. It's brilliant on the box step overs because it's actually mapping it side to side. So the evolution of this, the next bit of evolution that Chris was talking about, then is inter-gym competitions with Durare. So using that software, we then effectively allow other gyms to join in with an online session. They have their own tablets. They download the software, which will eventually be on an app. They use their own sandbags. And then we've got a national competition that actually doesn't rely necessarily on us taking Durare in a trailer to everybody else. and then you've got a league, and then there's a dog just appeared between us, and then you've got a league, and it could go quite big in that sense. So it's very exciting. It's quite scary. We're testing it tomorrow in the gym because we're actually doing a sim in a week's time. We found on Wednesday night we couldn't get the ground overhead to work, and apparently turned up the difficulty because we were going to be able to turn the difficulty up and down so you could obviously adapt it to people of different standards, and he'd actually set it too high, and no matter how much we tried, we couldn't score a rep at all on ground to overhead, and we were, Steve and I were trying it out, and we were exhausted by then because it wouldn't work. But we're told tomorrow, when we do the next test tomorrow, we're told that the difficulty has come down.
So with the technology, therefore, would you be able to, I think the expansion potential for that is huge. Obviously, like,
Yes.
I don't know of any other competition that would allow you to compete online like that, apart from anything strictly erg based. So I think that's huge to be able to reach racer based, whatever you want to call it, in, you know, any country. I think that's really cool.
That's it.
Difficulty levels that you were talking about, I've never heard of that before. I mean, if that works, it sounds amazing. Would you therefore, because of the decreased difficulty, obviously, the easier, let's say, you make the movement by reducing the range of motion or the difficulty, would they be different? Would you put them into different divisions? So, for example, you couldn't have someone competing on maximum difficulty versus, you know, the middle or bottom.
That's exactly it. I mean, I've done a WoDLETE session tonight, and my cycling is stronger than my rowing, so I actually had level 3 on the cycling, but level 2 on the rowing, and level 2 on the ski erg. That measures in watts. So if that same system, which it will, applies, you could grade it for all sorts of different groups of people. And I guess if somebody was struggling to make the first, somebody who was new to a gym wanted to have the first competition, and it's quite an achievement to go out and do your very first competition in front of other people. It could be scaled appropriately to their division. There's some chaps at our gym who are doing 25 and 30 kilo sandbags as if they're 10 kilo sandbags. And you look at these guys and they're very strong. I should really give a shout out to Benji here, who is very talented and very strong, and he'll throw a 30 kilo sandbag around like I throw a 20 or a 15. So he would need more challenge than I do.
So when you're talking about challenge, is that referring to the standard at which it holds you to form-wise, or is that the difficulty of the movement itself in terms of what is it exactly referring?
I think it actually could be three things. It could be the weight, the form, the movement. It appears as if we're going to be able to set it to wherever we want to be.
So, for example, if you're doing ground to overhead, if you had this AI set up to maximum difficulty, it would ensure near perfect form, the maximum weight option, and just maximum intensity, so to speak. So it would make mainly the form and the weight that it would expect you to do perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, if it's interesting when you see it in action, because we were having a little bit of fun the other day, and we were testing it out with a chap with a sandbag, and then we walked behind, and it's only looking for one person, but if you got in the right position, it then picked up the walker walking perfectly behind it, because he'd kind of come into frame. But you can see the full form of a walker. You can see the full. It's almost as if you've had points on your body which are drawn, and you become a skeleton. It's very clever.
I think stuff like this definitely does, as you are doing right now, exactly, need to be tested quite rigorously for it to then be brought out and told that everyone needs to follow this. For it to, someone to completely trust AI, I think the testing, that it may be one downside of it, is that you need to be able to assure people who are paying money for the event, you are not going to get no reps for something that is a rep. You're not going to get reps for something that isn't a rep. You are going to be held to a, almost robotic standard, as according to whichever difficulty level you obviously assign yourself to. So I think, that's the potential is huge. But then I think also in order to reach that potential, there needs to be a whole bunch of steps in between. So it's cool that it's getting tested and you're doing sims with it and everything like that.
Yeah.
You're never going to not need people as well there to kind of be the backup judges. You've always got to have that human element there as well, just to, because there'd be nothing more frustrating than your tablet not working, or you thinking it's not working, and then somebody going, actually it is working. You're just not quite doing it right.
Even at events in High Rocks. Yeah.
Nobody likes to hear it, because the amount of people, we've both volunteered as judges, the amount of people that turn up to races and they haven't studied what they're supposed to do properly. They don't know the rules of and you see it on social media all the time. I watched one the other day. A guy was doing lunges in High Rocks, and he's got smashing knees, and he got absolutely slated because his knee didn't hit the floor once. And he said, "I didn't know." I'm like, well, you paid a lot of money to enter that race. You should know what you're supposed to be doing, because it's pointless otherwise, isn't it? So you're always going to need the human element to back up the AI.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you saw it was a race in Vienna last year. I mean, High Rocks and their budget and their reach. I mean, millions. And they had a whole series of rowers in the elite race that weren't working. You had in the World Championship finals, you had a wall ball counter target that reset after 88 reps, and the dude was in first place in the elite World Championships that it happened to. So, I mean, if it happens there, it can happen to almost anyone, like you say.
Absolutely. It's, you need humans there as well, so it's not going to be completely reliant on AI whilst it's great. And it satisfies a lot of people's needs as well, because people, judges, you are hated on when you're telling people that they're not doing something right, and rep somebody. Nobody likes to be no rep, but if it's a no rep, it's a no rep.
It's hard to argue with a red light, so I mean, AI is better
for absolutely that way. I mean, they can still argue with it, but there's not going to get anywhere, is it? So and the judge will go, no, the AI says,
computer
the AI
says no.
Right.
Yeah,
computer. Yeah, exactly. Computer says no. So yeah, exactly. But yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask, did you say it's Jason, your fellow director chap, who's ex-army?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So, Jude, is there another sport other than Durare and Deadly that refers to them as labours, or is it just those two?
No, as far as I'm aware, it's just them.
So Jason Curtis, who's founder director of Deadly Dozen, is ex-army, and Jason's ex-army. So is that an army term?
It must be.
I guess so.
Must be.
Yeah, we've just got it drummed into us now.
Right, because I'd never heard it before Jason said it. I'd never heard it before Jason said it. This is the second
zones.
Time. Yeah.
What do you call them, stations then?
Everyone else calls them stations or zones.
Whoever. Yeah.
It's just.
It is harder.
It is a laser.
There you go.
It is. I mean, Jason's vision was always to have a very, very, very tough race. Now, the format that has evolved, and the format we'll end up with, it can be really tough for people if you go for a heavy sandbag, and do it on your own. It's hard. If you're new to it, and this is where I kind of come in, because I think it is a good step into competition. If you can run, and if you can move, a 10-kilo sandbag isn't particularly heavy, or a 15-kilo sandbag isn't particularly heavy. A 25-kilo sandbag becomes tough.
Yes.
And that's where. So what have I done? I did 10 and almost died. But that was in my early days of doing this. Then went 15, 20, and I'm now on 25. It's kind of that need to go heavier. I'm in the doubles as well, so I'll only do half of everything.
So all the 600s are with the sandbag?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you're running with the sandbag.
But you can obviously swap.
If you're in your double.
Yeah, you can obviously swap wherever. And ultimately, unlike High Rocks, there are no penalties for actually putting the sandbag down.
That would be brutal.
If you need to put it down.
Well, that's an interesting point to raise, because Jude and his High Rocks doubles partner discuss a penalty they were given and then had removed for moving the sandbag from one of them to the other one of them before the start line. And they literally had a judge stand in front and say, you can't do that, it's against the rules. Wasted 20 seconds of their time. And then subsequent to the race, they got awarded 10 seconds back because the head judge said, there's nothing that says you can't swap the sandbag from one to the other. I've got to say the handbag. That sounds even better. You can swap handbags anytime you like, Jude. So don't worry.
That's a heavy handbag.
I think that's the problem with having so many kind of judges, because you get judges that you go and judge, obviously. I mean, you go and judge, and not everybody is still like the competitors. They're doing it for a free ticket, really, aren't they? So they're not up to speed with the exact standards. And some of them, I'm not saying that, some of them really don't care.
Yeah.
Whereas others are like, no, you've got to do it properly.
Yeah.
It was just, I think it's a bit embarrassing for High Rocks to have a head judge come up to me and tell me something that I was like, no, that's not a rule. I just know that's not a rule. I know a lot about the rules. That's not a rule. How are you a head judge getting something like that wrong in an elite race?
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. But,
frustrating for you as well.
Yeah.
Especially given in that specific context, it's not just that they assessed a penalty later that then got nullified. It's they literally stood in front of them so they couldn't move the sled and then sent them back to the start line. And turned out the whole thing was nonsense. Like, okay, great. Anyway, back to your weights then. You mentioned the male pro is 25k, the female pro is 20. So is the male open 20 or 15?
I think it's 15.
So the male open is lighter than the female pro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm probably when this goes out, everyone will be saying, no, it's not. And I've done all the ticket entries today, and I should know this.
Well, just change it. Just change it to make it what you just said.
I just really.
Oh, I had a brief question about the start. As far as I'm aware, you're the only hybrid fitness race that starts with a labor. Was there a specific reason for that instead of the run?
I think the need was to finish with the run. So to finish with the run, you've got to start with the labour.
Right.
One of the sort of visions is we'll take it to really quite unique environments. We were very lucky in being able to use a school, which happened to have a wall, which was a castle wall, and actually there's a set of steps. And the very end, the finish line was to come up through the school grounds, through the forest, up the path, and then up through the steps of this castle wall and finish at the top. I mean, there was one chap, Jack, I think, who actually tumbled and fell and almost split his head open on the steps.
Yeah, you're really selling it back.
Yeah, I am selling it. But actually, that whole vision of being in an environment where you could adapt. So the race we'll have in the quarry, we're actually running it immediately after parkrun. So all of that will start immediately after parkrun. So we'll hopefully have some sort of captive audience who will at least stand around to watch. We've got big inflatables, finish lines. That'll be going up during parkrun at the side. It's a place that we'll see recreation place where deers will run past, and it's wonderful. You'll see mountain bikers and all sorts. So I think in taking this event to these places and actually using the environment as best we can, it shows off the event, but also shows off the location.
And so are you looking to do it? You mentioned that you started off doing in-gym racing. Have you moved completely to outdoor racing, or would you still do some, either the same or an adapted version of your event indoors?
So Durare Strong is exactly the same without the running. So we held a Durare Strong, I can't remember when it was, a couple of months ago, and you had an hour's time cap to do all the labours. So it's 60 of one, 60 of the other, straight through, bang, 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 all the way through with an hour's time cap.
That's all inside.
And that's all inside. And that's the one thing that we can't, that's where the AI may come in. It's not a problem. But as I say, the event is very judge heavy. The AI hopefully will relieve some of this pressure point.
What do you guys think about it? What are your thoughts on sort of AI technology rather than having that physical judge there?
I'm all for something that is consistent. So if the AI is consistent, then I prefer that. If the human is more consistent, then I prefer that. But I'm sick of people signing up for the same event, competing, and then getting leniency in different areas. It completes the whole point of objective data, right? Which is what High Rocks, for example, runs off, which is what any sort of hybrid fitness race right now runs off of. So I think it's all about consistency. And if it's really consistently strict, then you know what to expect. If it's really consistently lenient, even though there's consistency there's still subjectivity and leniency. And so it's just, I think the easiest way to be objective is strict. And I think if something is consistently strict, then it works. But then at the same time, If you're someone who isn't at the point in your fitness where you can be very strict with all these movements, fine. Then, like you said, you'd move into a division that was more lenient. It's consistently lenient for those people who are willing to compete against other people with the leniency. So I think it's just separating people into sort of categories of which they wish to be judged.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking to another race the other week, and they were saying that their way around that specific thing Jude's mentioned about some folks who just can't complete certain standards. They say they will give you an overall time for completing the event, but they won't give you a time for that thing. So if you can't squat to depth on a wall ball, you just won't get a time for that event, even though when you finish. When you finish the whole thing, they can give you an overall time. So he was in the process of trying to come up with a word that wasn't failure or did not finish to allocate to that thing.
We've got 4 or 5 things planned for the rest of 2026. Like Ian says, the full Durares, the Durare Strongs, the Durare Runs and things like that. It's just going to constantly grow and build. It's kind of seems to have taken on a complete life of itself now. And it's just going with it, isn't it? Really?
We also have day jobs as well.
Yeah.
I mean, all we talk about. My son complained the other day. He says, "That's all I hear from you now is Durare." But the other chaps involved with this also work full time. So it's something that started off as a fair race. And a one-place race, all of a sudden, has just grown exponentially. So we've got to be very careful and manage the growth and manage the expectations, because ultimately it's relying on a very small team of people. But the whole idea of having it effectively in a van, in a trailer, set up.
So you just take it anywhere.
Take it anywhere. We can rock up. One of the things we want to do, we've got the big finish line coming and gazebos all branded. Our setup, we've got sort of an aim to set it up in an hour and a half. So, everything we literally arrive, bang, it's done and up and running. And then, idea of taking it down in an hour, packing it away, and then move to the next location.
Nothing down south yet.
Yeah, nothing down south yet, but it's
anything is possible.
Do you know what? I think I think sort of not this year. I don't think, but I think next year definitely.
From what we've seen over the last 3 weeks, there is a niche for this. It's also, it's unique in that it's only a sandbag. Okay, they're actually quite heavy to transport around, but it only requires a sandbag and a couple of flags and some tablets for the software on, and as long as you can measure out, you're up and running. So it is fairly simple. The biggest problem is the boxes, the size of the boxes. We've even found a supplier with folding boxes now, so that should take out that thing in the long run. We'll buy folding boxes because they're enormous. Standard gym boxes.
Yeah.
And they're full of air.
And just useless.
Yeah.
Bits of wood.
That's right.
Okay, so the plans for going around the UK, then that's pretty much looking at next season, and you're kind of more within your region for this season. Yeah. And I think quite a few different hybrid races that Jude and I have spoken to that are tapping into the same thing as you in different parts of the country, which is partly, recognising that things like high rocks, especially high rocks, but things like high rocks are great if you don't mind going into the big smoke. And if you don't mind probably not being able to get a ticket because they sell out so fast, and if you don't mind paying a fortune for the ticket. For everyone else, and for those same people at other times, because no one's got the money to be doing high rocks every other weekend. So I don't think it's a niche. I think the predominant participation in hybrid racing will end up being things like Race Durare. I don't think the predominant hybrid race will become high rocks. I think it become number of, and I'm sure that'll consolidate over time, but a number of people like yourselves, and especially with having the vision to get AI involved earlier than almost everybody. I mean, there are a couple of people out there, but not many, trying to do that. So I think that's really important in getting yourselves established. So that's kind of exciting to look at how you get on with that. And as I said, taking hybrid racing to the regions rather than expecting the regions to go to the hybrid racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're doing London, aren't you, in a couple of weekends' time?
Yeah.
And we
No, you mean the week next weekend. Yeah.
Next weekend. But it's I've been down with him most times and I've done London, but I've been down with him. But I'm not going. It's
Yeah.
no offence, I'm not coming to support you, but it's just too far.
Yeah. Thanks.
I can't be bothered.
I love you, but
I love you, but I've got all the photos I need to take of you. I've tracked you many times and gone, "Are you still alive at the finish line?" I don't want to do it. I want to go all that way and do it.
And I understand that.
But he was hoping I'd go, so I'd drive him back.
I'll probably come back about Tuesday.
His quads will be toast. You'll need help. You'll need help with the brake pedal. So what can people sign up for, and where should they go to do it?
That's you.
That's me. So on Instagram, on Facebook, we've got our own website as well. All the details are on the social media website as well.
That's Race Durare, Durare.
Durare, yeah. And take it from there. Tickets are there. It's only about £40 ticket, £45 a ticket, so it's not expensive. We've got a race coming up on the 2nd of May, Cannock Chase. We've just confirmed the 1st of August in the Quarry in Shrewsbury. That's in Shropshire.
Never mind, Jude.
I'm not going to let it.
I actually feel we should offer Jude a free ticket.
Free ticket.
I think that's to bring you to Shropshire.
There you go.
Rural Shropshire. In fact, there we are. There is a free ticket for you to come and take part and be AI judged.
Yeah.
Education purposes.
1st of August in the Quarry in Shrewsbury, and you'll leave and go, "Wow, what a beautiful place!"
There we go.
Really
Love it.
There we go.
And we haven't confirmed the date for Worcester yet, have we? No. But that's in June-ish.
Yeah, there's lots of different options now, and it's just it is exponential. The amount of work that's gone in a very short period of time. As I said earlier, we actually do have other jobs to do as well. I went to sort of getting ready for another High Rocks, and having entered far too many other competitions this year. Actually, training this week is kind of sitting a bit of a back step. Whilst I tried to sort the technology out in the AI and get the organisation. So we've also got to be very careful it doesn't completely take over our lives.
I was going to say, you're a head teacher in your spare time, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
I crossed you up.
You crossed me up?
I did, yeah.
Well, but that's where the next evolution comes in, because I've been talking to other heads about Durare in schools, and specifically with taking it to schools for elite training of their athletes or GCSE type PE. And every time I've shown them a couple of the videos, all the directors of sport, all the heads have gone, "Wow, that is what we need." So there's a whole other side that we can begin to develop. And again, all the school would need is a set of sandbags and a couple of tablets, which they've got, and all of a sudden they can be running this. So there's another strand that is probably going to come when I've got time to sort it out, which I think could be really interesting. Seeing the sort of the younger High Rocks group now coming out, all we've got to do is just pull the sandbag weight down. But most 14, 15-year-olds can actually make the movements far better than I can, because they're far more flexible. We just got to choose sensible weights for teenagers. There is an angle here as well that will come once we've refined everything else.
Awesome.
I mean, fair play to Jason. He's like he started off with an idea and it's just completely rolling. He's done a really good job, hasn't he? Hence why we've been roped into it, and the other guys have been not roped into it, kind of volunteered our services.
Yeah.
In whatever ways, and so fair play to Jason for thinking it up. Really, he's and he's still very much involved in it all. He is still very much involved in it all with us as well. He's just not the podcast kind of person.
Awesome. Well, that's really interesting to hear about all that, and hopefully you can get Jude down to Shrewsbury in Shropshire the 1st of August into a quarry.
I'd love that.
We'll get him in a quarry somewhere at some point anyway. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time. It's been really interesting listening to it, and wish you every success with May the 2nd. And as I say, there'll be a lot of people keenly interested in seeing what you're doing with AI. Because I think ultimately everything's going in that direction anyway. So great stuff. Thank you for your time.
That'll be the real test.
Yeah, it will be. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Julia.
Weekend.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.